Hi, this is Kerry Artak with Wicked Stocks, bringing you an update in Bitcoin. I did record this video, by the way, actually early Monday morning, April 14th, 2025, actually before the markets opened. Bitcoin trades pretty much 24 hours, but the Gemini Bitcoin real-time index does break it into weekly bars, which is great. Worth noting, is that we did not close below this area entirely last week. If you've been following, I should say, if you've been following my series here, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But I can walk us through the fact that we've got a 5-year channel top that we settled above back in November that we have violated. Even significantly last week. We opened clearly below it on the tariff situation. I don't want to go through all those. The stock market obviously correlated somewhat with this. Stock market opened much lower a week ago. That would be Monday, April 7th. Made a decent comeback later in the week on the pausing of the tariffs. Bitcoin made a substantial comeback and closed inside of the 5-year channel top and just below the rising 1/3 speed line, which was by too narrow of a margin. And this rising 1/3 speed line is a trend-defining element. In other words, from this November 22 low against the more recent January 25 high, as the market has continued higher, if you hold above the rising 1/3 speed line, the trend remains intact. The bull trend remains intact. And I have to say, by a hair, we did close just below this speed line. In fact, I don't have the exact numbers here, but actually I'm going to zoom in on this chart here, and you can see how we traded closed just above the 5-year channel and pretty much right at or just below the rising 1/3 speed line. I'll get to this chart in a moment. So what is the takeaway? The takeaway is we cannot assume that we've had a shift in long-term trend. Despite the fact the market has certainly challenged the support levels substantially over the last month and a half, 2 months, we have yet to see a clear settlement below this area. And if we did this week, Friday, essentially, close below 83,668 and 84,624 is the rising 1/3 speed line. If we close below both, then I see a substantial turn in the longer-term directional impulse. The longer-term directional trend would become more to the downside. And when I say more to the downside, I'm talking what I estimate to be probably a 3 to 5 month sell signal to 49,830. This is a rising 2/3 speed line. So with speed line analysis, when you close below a rising 1/3 speed line, the trend has been neutralized, and you can expect a near to mid-term descent to the rising 2/3 speed line, and that is what I would expect if we close this week below 83,668. So we're still in this kind of a pattern. I'm not going to call it a holding pattern, but the market's certainly being challenged. I'm talking Bitcoin, and we'll just kind of see where this plays out. If we can close the week above 84,624, the trend remains intact to the upside. If we close below 83,668 and back below this 5-year channel top, once again, when you close above a 5-year channel top, as this was, a 2020 low, 21 high, 22 low, and then we violated that in late 24, that should have resulted in a bullish continuation to this full wave count of 122,433. That isn't what's happened, but then the question is, do you close back below the channel top? And if you do close back below the 5-year channel top, the failure to follow through, the failure to hold above it is in itself a valid sell signal. In fact, I use the adage all the time. A failed buy signal is in itself an actionable sell signal under many, I'm going to say most circumstances, this certainly being one of them. So 83,668, 84,624, this is our area this week. If we close above it and you're long Bitcoin, it really is stay long Bitcoin. If we close below 83,668, I would consider lightening up on a position if you own Bitcoin. In fact, you could play the short side. There are different put opportunities in the ETFs. and even in some of the exchanges on crypto allow you to buy out of the money puts. 49,830 would become, I'm going to call it a 3 to 5 month objective. So let's talk upside, that in the event we close above 84,624, that does maintain a longer term bullish dynamic. But what about consistent and rapid follow through to the upside? That would come with a settlement above this recently formed, based in part on last week's low, roughly a 2-month descending channel top this week at 87,397. So if we can close Friday not only above 84,624, which is above both the channel top and the speed line, but also above 87,397, then I think we've got, this could be a 3 to 5 week pop to the upside. It could be shorter than that, but I think 3 to 5 weeks with present volatility. Remember, this bar that you see right here, that is just Sunday activity over the weekend. And so closing above 87,397 on Friday, I would expect 102,607 within 3 to 5 weeks. Yeah, that could take the better part of 2 months, but 3 to 5 weeks would be my guess where we could actually top out on a monthly basis and fall away. And finally, a settlement above 102,607 is the clear shot for 122,433, which is once again this 21 high minus the 22 low. Add that to the 21 high and you have the full swing. I've used it as a targeting mechanism for a long time and it works quite well. And in fact, this upper area remains in reach by the end of the year. If we can close this week above 84,624, and that gets a nice boost to the upside as we move into the month of May with a settlement above 87,397. I think that pretty much wraps it up. I'm going to leave it at that for this particular Bitcoin update from wickedstocks.com. You have a great day.